Hello, second grade. So today we're going to start this paper relief sculpture. And a relief sculpture is a sculpture that's meant to be viewed from just one side of the paper, or one side of it. So relief sculptures tend to have nothing on the back of them, anything of interest to look at, but they do have depth, so they stick out. So sculptures have three dimensions. They have height, they have width, and then they have depth. They have the part that sticks up. And so today, we are going to create a relief sculpture out of paper that has a flat back, and we're going to create a pattern, and we're going to repeat a shape over and over again on the relief sculpture, white paper on white paper, and it creates these nice illusion, these nice shadows that show the depth of this sculpture. So that's why we're doing white on white, and you're going to create a pattern. And so what I had did was I folded a whole bunch of triangle shapes, and I glued them in a pattern going 2 horizontal, 2 vertical, 2 horizontal, 2 vertical. And then I did the opposite on the next row. 2 vertical, 2 horizontal, 2 vertical, 2 horizontal. And I alternated it that way. You could do a different pattern. You could do one going one way, one the other. You could glue one going flat, and then you could turn it and stand it up. It's really your preference on the pattern, but you have a choice between two shapes. I'm going to limit your choices. I'm going to show you how you can do a triangle that you repeat over and over again, or you can do just a simple tube. And so the one I create in front of you today is going to be the one with the tube. But let me start with how to create a triangle shape. You're going to get some pieces of paper that are 2 inches by 4 inches. And the way that you create a triangle shape is you fold the paper in half, and then you open it up and you take one side of it and you fold it in towards that center crease, and then you fold the other side in towards the center crease. And then you overlap these two pieces to create a triangle shape. So I took these two flaps and I overlapped them to create a triangle shape. And you just simply glue. Now you don't want to be a glue monster, because remember how if you get a ton of glue on your fingers, then it gets real dirty and you can see like this nasty brownish, grayish stuff that gets stuck from the glue, all the dirt from your hands. So since we're using white paper, you don't want to have that glue mess. So you don't want to use too much glue, and you don't want to get a lot of glue on your hands. If you do, you might want to go wash your hands about halfway through the project so you don't start getting those little brown, dirty spots on your paper. But this is how you make a 3D triangle out of the paper given. If you want to make a tube like this, a circular pattern, you do the same. You do just a line of glue on one end, and then you loop it around, and you kind of have to hold it there and give it some time for the glue to get sticky. With the triangle, the two flaps overlapping, you put some glue on it, kind of squish it together and be done. But with the tubes, you kind of have to sit there and hold it for a few seconds so that it starts to grab and it stays in its shape. If you don't give it enough time for the glue to set up, it's going to come apart on you. So you do really have to be patient when you're making the tubes. So you're going to start with a square paper for the base of your sculpture. And you're going to take your pencil, and it's very important that you write your name and the letter of the day you have art. Day A, day B, day C. You're going to flip that paper over, and then you're going to start to make these shapes. You're going to either be making triangles or tubes. And unfortunately, you're going to need quite a few. So you can make a few, or you can make a whole bunch. It's up to you, but I want you to think about the pattern. So if I'm going to do these tubes, I could do a pattern just like I did with the triangles, where I do 2 going horizontal, and then I do 2 going vertical. But that's not very original, because I had already done that. So maybe I do 2 going horizontal and then 2 standing up. And then I do 2 laying down and then 2 standing up. And then 2 laying down. That would be a pretty cool pattern. And then I could alternate and do the opposite. I could do 2 standing up and then 2 laying down. And I pre-made all of these before I made the video, so you don't have to sit there and watch me make them. So I could do that. What else could I do? Let's see what else. I could glue them standing up. And maybe I do, maybe I do 3 together, and then I'll do 3 together here, standing up. And when you glue something standing up like this, it can get a little tricky with the glue because it doesn't want to stay stuck. But if you have a bigger surface to put glue on, that will stay stuck better. I could do 3 going this way. And all of these examples that I'm showing right now, you could easily do with a triangle as well. And then maybe I do 3 here, and then 3 here, and do a pattern that way. It's really up to you. I think I like the idea of alternating. And before I did 2 and 2, maybe I do 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, like that. Really, whatever kind of pattern you can come up with, it just needs to repeat itself. And I kind of like this pattern, so I'm going to do this because I think it's easier to glue them down flat than trying to glue them up straight. There's just not a lot of surface area to put glue on to make them stay stuck up. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to glue them flat. Now, when I glue these down, I'm going to always make sure that the flat part, the part that I wrapped around and glued, that's the part that goes down on the base of my sculpture. So I'm going to put a line of glue there, and I'm going to hold this down and get it to stay stuck, and then another line of glue. And again, I don't want to use too much glue, or I'll get my fingers all gluey and then it won't look as nice. And I want to kind of space these out pretty good and even around the edge of the base. I don't want to put a whole bunch real close together and then put some far apart to fill the base. And I do want you to lay at least 1 row out to look at it to see if you like it and to see how it fits. I don't want you just to start gluing. So I laid my row out to decide that this is the way I was going to do it. And I want you to do the same. And so then you just keep making these shapes. And it's going to be a little tedious, which means it's going to be doing the same thing over and over again. It might get a little dull. But I want you to keep gluing, making the shapes and gluing them down in a pattern and create a paper relief sculpture. And so that's my first row. So now this next row, I'll start with 1 going vertical, and then I'll do 2 horizontal. Now if you can come up with a different shape besides triangle or circle, if you can come up with a different shape that you can neatly make, I want you to make one of it, like a prototype. Bring it to me and we'll talk about it. You can show me how you made it. I'll look at it and see if I think it'll work, if you'll be able to make multiples of this shape. And then it is a possibility you could do your own shape. You don't necessarily have to do tubes like this or triangle shapes like on my previous one. And so I'm just going to keep doing this pattern over and over again, trying to make sure I keep these white tubes nice and clean, that I don't mess them up. Now if you look at this, I did kind of mess this up, because I can't fit 2 on here, but I have this really big gap. So I might want to scoot this over a little bit and scoot. I might need to go back and kind of pull these up and scoot those over so I can fit the last 2 tubes on here, because look, I have 1, 2, 3 rows of 2 tubes and I only have 2 rows. So I don't think I left myself enough room. So I'm going to have to peel this off, put a little bit more glue, and scoot it over. And then I'm going to have to peel these off. So sometimes that happens, and it's a good learning experience. I should have laid the second row out before I glued it down. I shouldn't have just started gluing a second row down thinking, oh, I got this spaced out, this is correct, because I didn't space it out correctly. So now I'm having to rip these up and re-glue them, and it's tearing my paper a little bit. It's not terrible because I can just glue right these pieces over the top, but it's not great to be pulling these off because I don't want any of your pieces to fall off. So by re-gluing these makes it a little tricky to keep them from falling off. Alright, and so now I'll just glue these last 2 pieces on there. Alright, it fits, but that was a close call. So now I know my second row, I'm going to have to put those a little bit closer together. Or instead of cramming this row together, I could have spread them out a little bit more. I could have tried that. All right, and so my next row, I go back to the first row. So I do 2, and I don't have to lay these out because I have already laid out one row and I know how they work, how they lay out. So then I'll lay these down. And I just keep going until my relief base, the base paper, the square white paper, is completely filled neatly, evenly spaced out. And I want you to try and glue these on straight. Sometimes as you get going, you're gonna find that you start to glue them down crooked because you're not paying close attention. So try and glue these down nice and straight to keep them even. Alright. Okay, I'm not going to make you watch me do this last row, but just remember, you're going to fill up your paper all the way to the bottom. So you're going to end up doing 4 rows because of the size paper that I give you. 1, 2, 3, 4 rows, 4 strips going across, and you're going to do that until the whole paper is filled. So this isn't quite finished. I need to do one more row, and this is your paper relief sculpture, 2nd grade.